Hello everyone and welcome back to another travel video. About a month ago I set off on a journey to Switzerland and I stayed there for a week. It was one of the greatest countries I've ever been to and I can't wait to share with you my experiences. This was the first time I had gone abroad purely via train. We went all the way from the UK to Switzerland via train, which was super fun actually, even though it did take a lot longer than what it normally takes with a plane. I can't wait to share with you the experiences, so let's get into it. So I set off from my home in South Wales all the way to London. So we took Great Western Railway to London Paddington, and we took the Underground to Farringdon, and then took Thameslink up to London St Pancras, which is this station right here. St Pancras is where you get all the international trains across the English Channel. I'd never taken a train from St Pancras before, and the actual station is alright, but once you go past security to the Eurostar section, because of course you have to go through security, it was really not nice. Just rather cramped in the waiting room, and there were barely any places to sit. This was just me and my mum. My dad couldn't come, and we both had really heavy rucksacks on our backs instead of taking the typical suitcases on wheels. Eventually we got on the train. There were no delays. Eventually we got to Paris Gare du Nord. It was already a lot warmer in Paris. I had prepared for like relatively cool temperatures for the morning, but now we had arrived at Paris at what, 4 p.m. I think? And it was really warm in Paris. So then we had to walk over to Gare de l'Est, which is a really quick walk. You don't need to go very far. We had quite a long turnaround for this train though. It was so hot. It was like 28 degrees or something. Had dinner in this restaurant. It was here, I think. Can't remember what it was called either, but it was a nice place. And eventually we got on the TGV to Strasbourg. The TGV means TGV in English. It just stands for Train Grand Vitesse, which just means high-speed train. It gets from Paris to Strasbourg in under 2 hours. I couldn't believe how fast it was going. It was going at something like 180 miles per hour, which is like 290 kilometers per hour. So eventually, yes, we got to Strasbourg. We stayed in a hotel that was very close to the station. It's called Hotel A.e.r.o. Yeah, we stayed in that for a night. It's a lovely place. We didn't have any time to explore the city, unfortunately, which is a shame. My mum had been there before, so my mum wasn't too gutted because she'd already seen it. It was really hot. It was 30 degrees or something when we got there. We arrived in Strasbourg about 20 past 10 at night, so the next day was much cooler, and in fact there was a big old thunderstorm ahead. Eventually we got on the train that takes us down to Basel, and this was the first time that I had stepped foot in Switzerland. And so we got off at Basel SBB. It was very quick. We just got off, changed platform, got on our next train. So we didn't see any of Basel, unfortunately. It was about another 2 and a bit hours to Interlaken. But before I go into what we did, just want to mention a few things about Switzerland. If you want to go, it's very well known for being an extremely expensive country. We did indeed find that while we were there. Because we were totally and utterly travelling by train, me and my mum decided it would be a good idea to get something called a Swiss travel pass. This was really good. It saved us so much money. The actual payment for it is quite expensive. By the way, 1 Swiss franc is roughly equal to £1 or €1. It was about over 400 francs for my mum, and it was less than 300 for me, because I'm below, I think, 25, I think the age limit was for that. We did find that it was definitely worth it, because we used trains pretty much every single day. So basically, what this travel pass does is gives you free travel for every train you get on in Switzerland, or mode of public transport, with a few exceptions like some touristy spots. It would give you 50% off tickets on those places, apart from the Jungfraujoch, which only gives you 25% off, which I think is really harsh. But yeah, everything is expensive there, especially if you go to certain places. So, yes, we arrived in Interlaken. We were all of a sudden bombarded with this absolute tropical thunderstorm when we arrived. It didn't last too long, but it was so heavy. station that we got off at. So we had to change in Interlaken. We weren't staying in Interlaken. It is very popular to do so, though, in Interlaken. So it's a very touristy place. So if you guys are considering going to Switzerland, Interlaken is somewhere I would totally recommend you to look for places to stay at, as well as plenty of other places. We took another train, and this is a local train, and took us through the valley to this little village called Lauterbrunnen. Ever since I knew about this place and saw pictures of it, I have wanted to go here. It is an unbelievable place. We got off the train and immediately staring at us in the face was this enormous waterfall right here called the Staubbach Falls. It's so picturesque. The rain had cooled off, but it was still light-ish rain, but it was just a beautiful atmosphere. And so we decided to walk to our place because it's a stunning, stunning valley. And in fact, we were staying in this little place here called Alpine Base Hotel, and it is a great, great place. And as we were approaching the hotel, I got this stunning view down the valley with a tree in the foreground. It was just spectacular. So about the hotel, it's technically a hostel, really. You have your own rooms, but you share bathrooms and showers and all that. And you share like a kitchen and stuff, which might sound annoying, but it wasn't bad, to be honest with you. When I got into my room, I was like, wow, because I had this incredible view of pretty much the whole little town and the valley walls either side. Incredible place. Also, another little thing, if you stay in these touristy spots, you have to spend some tourist tax, what they like to call city tax, on top of the price that you spend for staying. In this place that we stayed in Lauterbrunnen, it was 9 francs per night. We were staying here for 3 nights. We paid 27 francs in tax. It is genuinely worth it for what you get here. It's absolutely incredible. The only thing I would say about the place we stayed in is that we were right next to quite a loud river, and the windows weren't exactly soundproof. Neither were the walls, for that matter. You could hear each other very well through the walls, and that wasn't the best. That's literally the only criticism I have about this place, because everything else was really nice. So we relaxed a bit after traveling for so long, and then we decided to go out for our first evening meal. So we stumbled upon this place here. It's called Hotel Schützen, and it had a dish with chicken and salad with this lemony dressing. It was beautiful, and it had some melon, cheese rolls and some red currants on the side. I didn't have the red currants or the cheese, but the melon was top. The chicken was cold, but that was perfect. It went so well with this salad. It's a meal that I don't normally have. It doesn't sound like a good combination, but it was stunning. It was amazing. You're in Switzerland, restaurants are going to be expensive. This one wasn't too bad. It was 22 francs for that meal that I had. If you're in Lauterbrunnen, recommend Hotel Schützen. So after we finished our meal, we had a walk over to the Staubbach Falls, because you can actually walk up to it. Yeah, you see here, you can walk up to it and you can go behind it. It's scary being that close to a gigantic wall, but it was an incredible experience. Underneath the Staubbach Falls. The light was starting to dim. It was quite late on. It's quite treacherous on the way up. If it's been wet and windy, it could be quite treacherous, so just watch your step. There are handrails around, so hold on to them because you could slip if it has been wet or the wind has changed the direction of the falls and they land straight on you, because that's what happened on the way down. The wind blew the waterfall towards us as we were going down, and we got absolutely soaked. We thought like another heavy rain shower had started, but no, that was the waterfall, because we got out and the ground was still relatively dry. As we were walking back, the weather did take a turn for the worse, and it started heavily raining again. So we sprinted through this campsite and across this bridge and back to our hotel. And yeah, at night, in the early part of night, I should say, from about like 8 p.m. to 11 p.m, they have a big big light that lights up the falls, and it looks pretty cool. The Staubbach Falls itself is huge. I haven't really gone into that. It's huge. It's 297 meters tall. That's nearly as tall as the Eiffel Tower, just a little bit shorter. It's so big that the water becomes like a mist before it hits the ground, and it looks so mystical. So, the next day, we stayed our first night in Switzerland, and we were off to a different town. So we decided to take a wee train. We changed here at Zweiluchinen to go to this little town here called Grindelwald, and this was a place I really did want to go to, and it's spectacular. When you get there, you have this stunning town that's built over rolling hills and stuff. It's an amazing view, and you should have a view of the iconic north face of the Eiger mountain, but it was absolutely shrouded in clouds. We never saw it, which was disappointing because I really did want to see the Eiger from Grindelwald. We did see it by other means, we'll get onto that later, but what I had originally planned was that we go from Grindelwald to the top of Europe called Jungfraujoch. It's Europe's highest train, and it's like over 3.5 kilometers up. It's insane. I wanted to go up here because apparently it's really worth it, but it would have been by far the most expensive thing we did. If we did do that, it will have ended up costing us over 300 francs, which is absolutely insane. It's a big shame because I really wanted to do it, but we were on a tight budget, really. In Switzerland terms, we were on a tight budget. We decided probably not. We'll save it for next time. But what we did do instead while we were in Grindelwald was go up this cable car called Fürstbahn, and it's quite a long cable car, but it does eventually take you up here to this mountain called Fürst, and it should give you an impressive view of the entire town and the Eiger and all that. Although when we were there, it didn't. Unfortunately, the weather did not really turn up for us today in this place in Grindelwald. We waited for clouds to clear, and it just did not budge. We've been a bit unfortunate with the conditions. The Eiger is supposed to be over there, we can't see it. We decided to go down. There's this terrifying cliff walk thing, and yet we couldn't see anything. It was completely fine. It would have been terrifying if it wasn't clouds, probably, because it was misty. It was almost more comfortable to stand on it. But yeah, this will be certainly a place to come back to, because we got so unlucky with the weather here. On the way down, we got good views of these mountains, but not the Eiger. The Eiger just did not want us to see it on that day. Won't lie to you, it was a bit disappointing. We tried our best to make up for it, so what we did, we headed back to Interlaken. It was about 4 p.m. and we decided to take this little funicular up to the top of Kulm, and it's an incredible panoramic sort of restaurant. We didn't eat in the restaurant because we thought it's going to be too expensive. It took us about an hour to get up there in total, starting in the queue to getting up there. There was an extraordinarily long queue that just didn't budge, and they only allow a certain amount of people on at once, and the timetables didn't make any sense. They said they go every half an hour on the timetable, whereas in actuality they went every like 15-20 minutes, which didn't make a shred of sense. And it just made everything so confusing. We were like, how long is it going to be until we get on? And it was just like, it was not clear. It was kind of scary, actually, going up the funicular. It's scarier than going up a cable car. It really is. You almost feel like you're more likely to just go right back down again. But up there, the views are spectacular. Oh my goodness, the views are amazing. We saw the whole town of Interlaken and both Prinzensee and It was cool because it was like half cloudy, half clear. The sun's rays were pointing through some of the clouds, and it made a really atmospheric view. But I'm not going to lie to you, this was the last bit of clouds that we saw for a long time. So we took the train back to Lauterbrunnen. We actually ended up going to the same restaurant as the first night, and me and my mum swapped dishes. So my mum had a salmon dish on the first night, and she really enjoyed it, so I thought, oh, I'll have that. And my mum had the chicken and leaf salad thing that I had on the first night. The salmon was delicious, but there were vegetables and potatoes on the side. The potatoes were a little bit disappointing, but overall, the salmon was stunning, and the veg was okay, I guess. We found that this Aussichtspunkt was incredible as well. Aussichtspunkt just means viewpoint, and yeah, it was incredible. It's a really popular viewpoint, this here. You'll find a lot of tourists taking pictures and stuff here because there's a church by here that makes it really scenic. Yeah, you'll see a few pictures here from that viewpoint. We went to this viewpoint like pretty much every single day, and it's just you can't resist taking photos of this incredible valley. We woke up the next morning and it was completely clear. Absolutely stunning morning. We knew it was going to be good weather, so we decided to go up to this little town up here called Wengen. In fact, the only way you can get up to Wengen is via train. As you rise further and further up the side of the hill, you just see this incredible, unbelievable, absolutely out of this world view of the Lauterbrunnen Tal. I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. I really don't think I have. We went like pretty early on. We arrived there about 10 in the morning, and I suggested this to my mum intentionally because I knew where the sun was going to be facing. The sun was going to be hitting this huge rock wall face on, and it worked wonders because it gave us the most incredible view. The view would be awesome, but every view that you get of like mountains and stuff, whenever you go on holiday, you see pictures of it and you're like, ooh, that's cool, but you really don't expect things to be so enormous when you get there. It happens every single time. We had breakfast up here. We just got a few little bits from a local shop. This walkway here, this path, had the best view. If you're looking for where to see the views from Wengen from, this walkway has the best of them. We came down about 11:30 to midday, I think, and we had an immediate plan in mind. We decided to get this cable car here up to Grütschalp, and then at Grütschalp there's a train that goes to this town here, Mürren. Mürren is just the most absurd town I've ever seen. The fact that the Swiss have been able to construct this town on the side of an 800-meter tall cliff is beyond me. When you're in this town, it's really difficult to imagine that there's this gigantic drop, like a few tens of meters or hundreds of meters from you. It's terrifying, but also really cool. And also along the way, on the train, we got the most incredible views of this side here. And finally, we saw the north face of the Eiger from that train view. And it was amazing. Like the way that it just drops off is insane. So yeah, we had a stunning view of the Eiger, Mürren and Jungfrau mountains, and the Jungfrau mountain we could actually see very well from Wengen. When we were there, the temperature had started to increase now. It was about 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. now, so we had lunch in Mürren. We ate it at this Aussichtspunkt here. There was a couple of benches right here, and we just ate it while looking at these enormous mountains. My mum really enjoyed it here as well. She was like, oh, we'll have to stay here next time. Oh man, this place is amazing. Mürren. It wasn't done yet. This incredible day wasn't done yet. We could have done even more here. From Mürren, you can get a cable car up to this station Berg, which has like a lot of thrill and adrenaline stuff you can do here. And then you can go even further up to the Schildhorn. Now this is quite famous for being featured in one of the James Bond movies. There's a lot of 007 memorabilia stuff up there. But we didn't go up there, partly because I knew that it was one of the more expensive cable cars, so I was like, yeah, we'll save this for next time. But it didn't matter too much anyway, because if we went up there we wouldn't have been able to do what we did next. On the way down we kinda did take the wrong cable car, but it didn't matter too much. We took a cable car to this village called Grindelwald. It didn't matter because we took the cable car to Grindelwald, and there's a cable car straight down to the main cable car station here, Stechelberg. But down at Stechelberg, there's this special place here. This is Mürrenbach Falls. It's actually the tallest waterfall in the whole country. 417 meters tall. This incredible. This was probably the tallest waterfall I've seen. It was incredible. We took the cable car and just went over the crest of this cliff. Just seeing the enormous cliffs to our left was insane. And the Mürrenbach Falls came into view. That was amazing
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's insane.
Basically just like climb upstairs right there.
Usually 24 hours.
I know that's what it is.
That could be an option too. Just keep the ones that you check and check. I don't know, will they let you check?
I think I can see it. Yeah. It's around that corner.
I think
There's a view.
Yeah, you actually check
what if we try to be like this scary type of under you and check someone or me?
Mürrenbach Falls.
But they let us check it separately. Like I like if
417.
Like if I check everything
like so yeah, let's just and then take me out and be
I'm running out of words to describe this place, and we're not even halfway through yet. But these cable cars that we took to go up here, and the train and stuff, and the cable car down to Stechelberg, they didn't cost anything because they were fully covered by the Swiss Travel Pass, because of course people live in these towns. Same with Wengen as well. So the next thing we did is wait for a bus. We took a little bus and we stopped off here at the Trümmelbach Falls. This was one thing that I had no idea what to expect about. I didn't know a thing about it before coming. It's 7 francs per person, which is pretty good. Trümmelbach Falls is insane. It comes from these glaciers from the Eiger Jungfrau mountains. The glaciers all melt into this valley here, and it comes out at Trümmelbach. But it's not any normal waterfall. It's actually half underground and half outside, which I didn't expect at all. It's so loud because you're in these caverns and the sound of the water just echoes and makes it so much louder, amplifies.
I've never seen water move so fast.
Say something like 10,000 litres per second. It might have been more than that actually. It might have been 50,000 litres of water per second. My goodness, it was an experience. If any living creature jumps in those falls, you are toast. The sheer force of the water moving is absolutely insane. I just couldn't believe what I was witnessing. It's actually really interesting because there's like an underground lift that you take to go up it. It's quite the descent down. There's 10 separate waterfalls. They're all equally as crazy as each other. But after the Trümmelbach Falls, we decided to walk all the way back, which was quite difficult actually, because now it was getting into the hottest part of the day. It was about 3 to 4 p.m. It was spectacular, but my goodness, the sun was beating down upon us. So that was our time in Lauterbrunnen all done. This entire area is incredible. I totally recommend you to go here because it's so beautiful. The next day it was time to move on from this region, so we gathered all our stuff together. It was time to carry our heavy rucksacks on our back again. We took the train Lauterbrunnen to Interlaken, changed at Interlaken, and then Interlaken to Spitz, and we took this incredibly long tunnel. It's like 35 kilometers long through the mountain to the Rhone Valley, and our eventual destination was down this way. But first we changed trains in Brig. We got off on this main line here, but we had to go outside to get our next train, which is like a more local train, I guess. It wasn't too long before we got on it, and we got on it all the way up here in a very windy train line. It even did a loop there to reduce its altitude gain. And so we eventually stopped off in this little town called Fish, and the reason we did that is because I wanted to see the huge Aletsch Glacier. We arrived here about 11:30 because the whole journey from Lauterbrunnen to Fish took about 2.5 hours. So this building here is where the train station is, but it's also where the cable car station is to go up to the viewpoint of the Aletsch Glacier. So we dropped off our bags here because we didn't want to take them all the way up there. We dropped off our bags in these little lockers, which always makes me uncomfortable because I don't like leaving my luggage alone. Even if it's safe away, I just don't like leaving it in a place that's not home. But anyway, we took the cable car all the way up here, and we actually had to stop here and wait for a cable car in like half an hour, and then we got up to the Eiger viewpoint, and now this is a picture from 2009, so it's a lot different to what it was when we were there. There wasn't this much snow when we were up here, but there were certainly patches of snow, and the glacier is just huge, absolutely incredible. The lines of rock that go through the glacier are so cool. There's just something about the Aletsch Glacier that's really awesome. We didn't stay up here very long, half an hour. We didn't stay up here for the longest time because these cable cars only run like once every half an hour. So I didn't want to like wait for another one and then be at our next destination much later. In hindsight, we probably could have stayed up there a bit longer, but I sure as hell want to go back here when the glacier is actually a little bit more covered in snow, maybe like earlier in the spring. I would certainly recommend trying to go to Eigershorn Peak. There was a little hint of our next destination while we were up there. We saw it from a mile away. I mean, see if you can spot it. It sticks out like a pretty sore thumb. But yes, we took the train from Fish back to Brig. According to my mum's like Swiss Trains app, this was supposed to go directly from Fish to our next destination, but it changed in Brig because the train didn't have enough power to get it up the elevation needed to get where we were going, so we had to get like another carriage for it. It was kind of annoying because when we got back to Brig at this time, it must have been getting over 3 p.m, which is about the hottest time of the day. And this was by far the hottest day in the holiday. And while we were in Brig, it got up to 31 Celsius and it was horrible. I was wearing this thermal jumper because I thought seeing the Aletsch Glacier from that height was going to be quite cold, but it really wasn't that bad. I could have gone up there with a regular t-shirt and I would have been fine. So I was stood there with a heavy bag on my back and a thermal shirt on, and I was not happy. I was not happy that this train had to be delayed, and worse yet, the platform that the train's arriving at doesn't have shade. So we had to rush somewhere else to find shade while we waited for the train to return. And then once the train arrived, we had to step out onto the scorching hot platform and then get on it. But we eventually got there. We took our train. I think most of you know exactly what I'm talking about. This train went through this valley. It actually took a really, really long time to get here. It was over 2 hours, but eventually we arrived in iconic Zermatt. We arrived in Zermatt with heavy bags and hot temperatures still though. It wasn't as bad in Zermatt because we were higher up. It was 23 degrees but still wasn't comfortable for us with all the heavy luggage on our backs. But what was comforting though is that we saw the Matterhorn for the first time. Me and my mum had wanted to come here for ages. My mum had never been here. My mum had never been to the Jungfrau region actually. She had been to Interlaken, but none of the regions around it. She'd always wanted to come here, and so have I. The Matterhorn is so iconic. Couldn't miss out on this. There are actually no cars allowed in Zermatt. It's one of Switzerland's car-free villages, and this is actually the same case as Wengen and Mürren. They have these little mini taxi things that are not really cars. They don't emit any fumes or anything. And apparently that's to not disrupt the town's view of the incredible Matterhorn mountain. I must say that this was incredible, just walking besides the Mattervispa river, heading up to where we were staying and just seeing the Matterhorn in the distance, albeit with hot temperatures, so that was uncomfortable, but still the view of the Matterhorn was most definitely comforting. So we stayed in a youth hostel. We went up this actually pretty steep walkway here, but we stayed in this youth hostel here. It's actually 3 buildings, so it's this building, and this building. This is the main one, but me and my mum were given a room in this building. What we did first of all is literally just relax. We had done way too much travelling that day. We did do something, which you'll see later on. So about this youth hostel, I think this youth hostel was a little bit better than the one in Lauterbrunnen, although the fact that it was hot didn't help. We had a southwestern facing window, which is exactly the same direction that this window faces, which is not good for summer weather because the heat gets trapped in this room, and it was the exact same thing here, and there was no aircon, no air conditioning. Because it's a youth hostel, it's not a hotel. And the reason we went with a youth hostel is because simply it's so expensive to get a hotel in Zermatt. It is just too expensive. Thankfully in this one we had our own toilet, and also we had to pay tourist tax again. I think it was a little bit more. I can't remember what the tourist tax was here. But one of the really good things that this youth hostel did was it did this 3-course meal in the evenings, and it was super cheap. Oh my goodness, it was so cheap. I think it was 19 francs per person. That's really good in Switzerland, especially in Zermatt. So on the first night we had this delicious pasta meal. We had a starter, I can't remember what it was now, but it was sweet corn with some leaves and this dressing. And the dessert was a donut. It was really good. Really, really enjoyed it. So later on, when the temperature had cooled down, just before 8 PM, me and my mum went on just a nice little peaceful walk. And we eventually came across this lovely little chapel here. This little chapel, and it had some benches alongside it. And it had a beautiful view of the Matterhorn, right in between 2 pine trees. The Matterhorn was just sat there in bliss. And we just sat there for ages, and it was just beautiful. It was so quiet, birds tweeting, yeah, everything. It was amazing. So the next day was just as stunning. What we decided to do in the morning was to take a cable car here. Yes, it was here. Took a cable car from here up to Schwarzsee, this place here. It's a really good thing if you want to get up close and personal with the Matterhorn. Now the prices for this cable car was not too bad. 29 francs per person, thanks to the half price of the Swiss travel pass. But yeah, while we were there, we got some stunning views of the Matterhorn, but you felt like it was just looming over you. It's just incredible how close you were to it. And it wasn't just the Matterhorn that was special. There were so many other mountains that we could see. It was a perfectly clear morning. We went up this steep path where the arrow is pointing on this picture. It doesn't look too bad from this, but trust me, when you get there, it's not easy. You need to be really careful that you don't slip, because there's a lot of loose rocks and loose stones and dust and stuff that you can easily slide on, but it was worth it because we got a slightly clearer view of the incredible iconic mountain. We stayed up here for ages. Eventually the moon, from our perspective, was right on the very tippy top of the Matterhorn. It was just a perfect alignment. It's just such an amazing place. I didn't put enough sun cream on. When I came back down, I realized I had been sunburnt. It was not pleasant whatsoever. So we came back down and we wanted to go into this Matterhorn museum, but very strangely it didn't open till 3 p.m. But yeah, so we just decided to head back to the youth hostel for a bit, just relax, and then afterwards we went there and I was starting to really complain about my sunburn, and so we went to the doctors and got some aloe vera gel, which was a really good decision. But yeah, but then we went to this Matterhorn museum, and it's pretty much all underground, this. It was really quite fascinating. It's the human history of the Matterhorn rather than the actual geological history. It goes on about the first ever ascent of the Matterhorn, which rather infamously didn't go very well. They got to the top, but on the way down it was a disaster and there was a whole controversy about it. It all happened in 1865, so quite a long time ago. Big controversy about it, and it still goes on to this day apparently. Yeah, mountaineering it's a hazardous business. Even today, like you need to be very, very careful. It gives quite a detailed history of Zermatt as well, like when Zermatt first came popular as a tourist destination, which is I think like the 1920s. Interesting to learn about it. I didn't know a thing about the first ascent of the Matterhorn before I went there. When you were just walking around Zermatt, when you were just in the general area of this magnificent mountain, you see it and you're like, I have to take a picture of this. It's just every single time you see it, it's just like, oh my god. It almost becomes like an obsession while you're there. I don't know if there's a more iconic looking mountain than the Matterhorn. I mean, sure, you got really iconic looking mountains like Mount Fuji, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest, but even then that's not that iconic looking. The Matterhorn is just an iconic mountain and you just can't get enough of it. So the original plan was in the evening to try and find a cheap enough restaurant to eat in, but we soon realized that became impossible. We just could not find anything that was cheap. So what we decided to do is get a couple ready meals from a little market. I mean, it was a lovely meal. Salmon and pasta with this lovely sauce. But it's a ready meal and it's not prepared by chefs and stuff. But oh well, it was nice and cheap. That was what matters. We decided, the fact that we couldn't find any restaurants that were cheap, we just decided, you know what, let's book in for that 3-course meal that we had the first night in the hostel again. But yeah, later that evening we went to that same chapel around about here, and this time the Matterhorn was a little bit more dramatic. There were a couple clouds around the Matterhorn in the sunset light, and it was spectacular and atmospheric as well. I think it helped that we were there a little bit later on. Yeah, it was about 9:30 actually that we stayed out there until, whereas the night before was 8:30. So we got a few more dramatic photos. So then on the final full day in Switzerland, we decided to get the Gornergrat railway to get a whole different view of the surrounding area. Now this was probably the most expensive thing we did, but it was totally worth it. It was 66 francs per person, which is a lot, but considering it's Switzerland, that's not too bad. So this is a train that goes up from Zermatt, up the mountain here, and goes up to this observatory up here, and it's actually over 3 kilometers high, and it has an insane view of this glacier here, and of course the Matterhorn, and all of these glacier covered mountains here. With your Gornergrat ticket, you can stop at whatever stop you want to stop at, only once per direction. It was a bit weirdly described. It took quite a long time to get up here, by the way, because it's ascending so sharply. When we got there, it was amazing, because I think I almost should have brought sunglasses, because the snow and ice was so bright. I had to squint to like see things. A personal record of mine was broken here as well. This is the highest altitude that I've ever stood on land. 3,100 meters. And something I also forgot to mention is that Zermatt was already the highest altitude place I'd stayed at 1,600 meters. We might have been imagining it, but there may have been a slight noticeable difference in how easy it was to breathe up there. But like, again, we may have just been imagining it. I say we, it was me. So I may have just been imagining it. But yeah, it won't be too noticeable. And it was actually pretty packed up there. So we went all the way up to the top first and had some incredible views of this glacier, which I think is called the Gornergrat Glacier. Having a different angle of the Matterhorn was also quite interesting as well. We went inside for a little bit and had a hot chocolate. It was a little bit chilly up there. The temperature was certainly down, but the sun was still just beating down. We had a view of the highest mountain in Switzerland, and actually the second highest in the whole Alps. This rather unremarkable looking mountain called Dufourspitze. It's not too obvious of a mountain, but it's the second tallest in the whole Alps and the highest in Switzerland. But after that, we took the train back down and we stopped off at this tiny little station called Rotenboden. We took a rather steep path down to this little lake here called Riffelsee, where I hope to get a lovely mirror shot of the Matterhorn in this lake, which I did sort of get, but the water wasn't completely still, but it was definitely the best I was going to ever get. Walking around here was quite tough actually, especially going back up. It was quite astonishing. We walked down to a further lake here, and also around here there's this beautiful flower meadow which is being maintained, and there's so many different alpine flowers. And that was another thing forgotten to mention this entire video, is that on these high altitude places that we went to, there were so many different wild alpine flowers that were just fascinating. There's so many different colors. My favorites were these really bright sapphire blue flowers. Gentian. I think the gentians were my favorite flowers that I saw up there. The picture that I'm showing on screen of them does not do it justice. To your eyes, when you see them in real life, they are so stunningly blue. So after that, we took the train back down, and we had done all the Matterhorn activities that I wanted to do. Rotenboden is something I could definitely do when I come back. And I say when I come back because I will be back here, because this place is incredible. Zermatt is amazing. Zermatt is iconic for a reason. These two regions that I explored are absolutely stunning, and I thoroughly recommend you all to visit both of these places, because yes, Switzerland may be expensive, but it is an absolutely stunning country. It's safe and it's clean and it is just wonderful. So the next morning it was sadly time to start heading home, and this would be quite a grueling journey back. We had to be prepared for some pretty hot temperatures. So we took our train in the early morning at 9:30 back to this town here, Visp. So we had to change here, and then we got the train from Visp through the lovely Rhone Valley. This was a lovely train journey to Lausanne. The original plan was that we would get the TGV from Lausanne, the Train Grande Vitesse that I explained in the start of the video, all the way to Paris. That wasn't what ended up happening. As soon as our train appeared on the screen, my mum's signal had actually gone. She had no idea what platform we were meant to be on. And then when it came up, it said in red text, supprimé, which means cancelled. What a blow that was. We had no idea it was cancelled. My mum connected to my hotspot and she found out that they had emailed her. They said that the train had been cancelled because of maintenance works at Lausanne station. It was unlucky really. So instead they had rerouted the TGV that we were due to get on to go from Geneva. So we had to very quickly dash over and get this train that was going to Geneva, because there wasn't another one for like another hour. Yeah, we arrived at Geneva and thankfully we found the TGV there. It set off pretty much on time, and the train set off. It went very slowly through this section here, but once it got onto relatively flat land, it's really sped up, and we eventually arrived at Gare de Lyon. We had been prepared for absolute death temperatures here in Paris. Well, prepared. We couldn't do much about the enormous bags on our backs, but we had this little hotel that we were staying in about here. It was on this little street here, Maison Traversière, and we stayed there for a night. Thankfully, it was air conditioned. It was 34 degrees in Paris. Heat always feels worse in a big city, and it absolutely was here. We decided to have tea quite late just to avoid the worst of the heat. We didn't have tea until about 8 p.m. The next morning, we had to get the metro from Gare de Lyon back to Gare du Nord, because this is where we would get the Eurostar back to Britain. And the Eurostar was late. Gare du Nord is a bit better than St. Pancras in terms of things to do after security. It's still not amazing. Thankfully the temperature wasn't as bad the next day as it was the day before. They said the train was boarding and then they didn't let anyone on for ages. It's just like we were just all queuing at the door, like waiting to go through. We couldn't go through. I just don't understand. Why would you say that it's boarding if you're not ready? And then it said final call while we were still queuing, and we just thought, oh well, gotta be automated, hasn't it? That's not good. If something's gonna be late, it shouldn't be automated, should it? We eventually got on. We got back to London, St. Pancras. It was all nice. The weather was much cooler as well, but it clouded over. We took Thameslink and the Underground back to Paddington, and then Paddington back home. So yeah, that is my entire Switzerland trip summarized. I have been recording for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I hope that this video isn't quite 2 hours. But, it was certainly an incredible time. Just advice, if you really want to go to Switzerland, just be prepared for the high prices. Make sure you plan in advance for if you want to travel around via train. And also another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning is that they have different plugs to the rest of Europe. I mean, it's pretty similar to a European plug, except it has an extra prong. I have it here actually. This is a European one. This is your European adapter. This is a Swiss one. You could actually use a European one in a Swiss one. It was like that in most places, but in some places you could only use this thing here, especially on trains. You will only be able to use these. But in most buildings you should be able to use a European one. Going to Switzerland, I recommend getting a Swiss adapter. Please, please, please. But yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. I really, really hope you enjoyed. And I hope to see you all in the next travel video. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.